Hey everybody, James Stone with NorCal Guides and Sportsmen Association here, getting ready to explain to you what happened in 2025 with our salmon fishing escapement goals and what's going to happen for 2026. Are we going fishing this year? The answer is yes. Everything's looking really good, but we're going to wait a couple of moments, let everybody start joining in here, and then we'll get going. I'm going to be covering a lot of different things today, from the north of the state up by the Smith River. We're going to be covering the Klamath, the Trinity, all the way down the coast throughout the Russian, the Eel, and all these other rivers and everything on the coast. And then we'll come into inland, and we're going to cover all the Sacramento and the San Joaquin and the Bay Area rivers as well. So get ready. We're about to get going, and we are going to be busy, moving as fast as we can through all this information for you all. So want to thank everybody that's out there today that's listening to this, and please share it with all your friends. And if you missed this live video, you can also always go to our YouTube channel, and we'll be putting it on there. I'm anticipating a lot of people joining today, so I'll give it about another minute until I get flying here. But hello to everybody. Always remember, if you've got any questions, I am filming where I can see the comments coming up, so I'll try to answer the question if it's a quick question and it's right on topic. If not, I will wait until the end, and then I'll cover the questions right at the end. So I'm going to try to keep this actually no more than about 45 minutes today, simply due to the fact that I am currently on the Fish and Game Commission, and under the Fish and Game Commission, I was just listening to the state of California getting ready to list mountain lions as endangered under the California Endangered Species Act. So I've been listening to that for the last 90 minutes. And next on the agenda is salmon. So why I've been sitting there waiting for my turn to speak on salmon. But very interesting. If you want to play that back, I'm sure it will be available on fgc.ca.gov, the Fish and Game Commission, if you have any interest in mountain lion issues. But anyhow, looks like we're getting a lot of people on now. So we're a little over 26, almost 30 people. So it's still ticking up. So we're going to get right underway here and get going. So first off, thank you to everybody that supports this great organization. This organization is a 501c3 nonprofit. We're always looking to support you and more members. We need your support more than ever. We just came off a 3-year closure for salmon fishing, and so we understand that times have been tight for all the guides, the charter boat captains, and everyone else that's in business for salmon. And recreational anglers want more so than ever to get out there and get fishing. And we're going to bring all that information to you right now. What's going on? What happened last year in 2025? What's going to happen here moving into 2026? So I just want to thank all of our supporters. If you're not a member yet, you're not a supporter, there's a couple of different ways you can support us. You can donate something to help the nonprofit that we can auction or raffle off or give away to kids. You can go to NCGASA.org and sign up. It's $30 to join your membership, or there's other sponsorships or things that you can donate, or any amount of cash. We appreciate any and all donations. And then also the last, or you can sponsor an event, one of our derbies or our dinner or an event like that, and support us that way. Make sure you go to our YouTube channel, smash the subscribe button as well. We've got thousands of followers there, and if you miss any of this stuff, you could also go check it out there. But here we go. Are you guys ready? You ready to get the information firsthand before anybody in the state of California knows? Let me see those thumbs up. Otherwise, I'm not going to give you the information. Who's out there? I got 42 of you live right now. We got some thumbs up. We ready to see it? I see big thumbs up. I like it. All right. I guess a couple of you. There we go. There's a few more of you. I'll surviving and alive. I can see kind of your pictures, but now there we go. I apologize for that. If I do get a pause, just stay on with us. My internet sometimes when I'm live, it goes a little berserk here. I'm on Starlink, but it should hold up. So if it does pause, just kind of stay with us. Give it about 30 seconds. It should unpause if it does do that again. But if not, for some reason, if it kicks me off, just get ready to sign back on, and I'll restart a new live video, and I'll call it part 2. So anyway, we got almost 60 people aboard. So welcome everyone, and thank you for all of the support. If you're not a member, go to ncgasa.org and make sure you sign up today. It's the best way to support us so that we can keep fighting for you and bringing you all of this information and sit in all of these meetings day after day, every single day. So thank you, Matthew. Still fighting the fight, man, even though I'm done guiding and done fishing in California. But I'm out there because of all of you. And the board of directors is out there fighting for you guys every single day, volunteering and trying to make sure that we have better fisheries. There's no other group in the state of California fighting for salmon as hard as we are. We're doing it every single day. We're on meetings every single day. There's a couple of other groups that are partnering with us, the commercial fleet and the charter boat fleet. Big shout outs to them. Golden Gate Fishermen's Association, based out of Berkeley and Sausalito, of all the charter boat anglers and guides, and then also PCFFA, which is the commercial fleet for salmon. Big shout out to them as well, our partners directly. But between our three groups, there's no other group that's out there. So there's some groups that are out there saying that they're fighting for salmon fishing, but they're not in the meetings. They're not engaged. They're not doing it every single day like we are. We are engaged with CDFW. I apologize, so there was another pause, but hopefully you guys are all seeing this, and I'll get going as fast as we can. But 5 days a week, 6 days engaged on salmon. We're sitting with CDFW, NOAA Fisheries, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Bureau of Reclamation, Department of Water Resources, Fish and Game Commission. That's just to name a few of the agencies. Sorry, guys. It's doing it again. That was at 6 minutes and 38 seconds, so I apologize. Hopefully it stops pausing me out, but I appreciate everybody being here. It looks like we dropped a few people. We got up over 70, and now we're dropping. Here we go. We're climbing back up. So just make sure you just hang on with me if it pauses, and I'll be right back and keep this going. And like I said, if it gets kicked off, I'll go straight into it. So here we go. Live video, 7 minutes in, 7 minutes, 10 seconds in, and we're going to start delivering the information. So here we go. Can you hear me now, Kevin? Does that sound a lot better? Kevin Jaime? I see you saying that I'm cutting out bad. I just want to make sure that the rest of you, I see one thumbs up. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. If it's still bad and you can't hear me, please make another comment. I think that's when it's pausing out. That's when it's trying to cut me out. So I apologize, guys, for that. So can't control the internet. Anyhow, here we go. All right, 2025, what happened? Well, it was the third year of full closure. We actually offered a little bit of opportunity out in the ocean. So there was 2 days in June that they offered in the first weekend and in the ocean. And I know everyone wanted to go fishing last year. I was one of the ones that said, hey, be really cautious about this, because if you guys go fishing, and this was me speaking directly to the Salmon Advisory Subpanel at the Pacific Fisheries Management Council, the seat that I used to sit on for almost 6 years, and I warned all of them. I said, if you open a fishery for only 2 days or 4 days, which is what they originally tried to do, yes, that will provide some opportunity, which we all wanted. Thank you, Mark Nunes. That's what everyone wanted, was opportunity. But I was the guy that knows that model better than most. And I was sitting there saying, I warn you, open. I got the do not disturb on, and I'm still getting phone calls from another angler. I'm doing a live video. Please stop calling me. It's the third time they've tried to call me in 4 minutes. Anyhow, that's the story of my life. My phone rings nonstop 24/7. So sorry to the 78 of you that are currently on. But where was I? So I tried to warn everyone in 2025 that if we opened that season for 2 to 4 days in June, that was going to historically shift the amount of effort and the amount of harvest within a day. And exactly what I said happened. So again, I'm going to caution and warn people that, yes, you want to have opportunity, but when you only have those low abundances in the year like we had last year with 165,000 total salmon out in the ocean is what they said. Remember, I said there was a little more out there, and you can go back and play my videos and go look at them. But I said there was more, and I was right. But the thing is that if we go out there for only a couple of days and we try to harvest fish, it's going to elevate the model of what we normally catch. To give you an example, normally like when you open the entire ocean in one day in June, it will show you in the model how many fish will be caught in KMZ for the one day, how many fish will be caught in Fort Bragg in that sector, how many fish will be caught in San Francisco, and how many fish will be caught in the Monterey. Those are the 4 sectors. Now remember, the 4 sectors are then divided between commercial and recreational. So you have commercial and recreational could be open in each of those 4 sectors. But I'm just talking recreational fishing right now because the commercial fleet didn't go fishing last year. They were completely closed for the 3rd straight year. And they could have opened. They could have done some small little numbers of 20 fish per week kind of thing, maybe 30 fish per week for a couple of weeks. But that wasn't even enough money to get their boats ready. They would have lost money just even getting their boats prepared to go for a commercial season. So they decided to pass their fish into the river fishery towards escapement. So big thank you to PCFFA, George Bradshaw, and the commercial anglers that voted for that, because what you did saved the fishery. It really did. It truly did. There was more fish that returned to the Sacramento system this year than in the last, I'll say almost 10 years, 8 years, something like that. So that was very good that they did that, because if the commercial fleet would have went fishing last year for those few weeks, harvested another 10, 20, 30,000 fish that we might have been able to, or 10 or 20,000, I'll say, we could have been in a lot worse shape than we were this year. And with all the programs that the bridge groups got going on between our 3 groups and the water users in Northern California, we've got some great things going on right now to where we're increasing production goals at all of the hatcheries, raising more fish at all the hatcheries, diversifying our release strategies, net pens in the river, fish in the rice fields, fry releases now for the first time since 1999 all over the valley. We're carpet bombing the valley, which one scientist said in a meeting this week. So big shout out to my main man, Steve, for that comment. He's like, we're carpet bombing the valley with fry. I love it. And that's what this organization is about, is raising the amount of fish that we have at our hatcheries and the best way to get you all back on the water as normal. So to the 100+ people that are watching this live right now, you know, that's what this organization's about, is trying to get those fish back. So some of the things I might say, you might disagree with me, you might agree with me, but I want you to know that the reasoning, I'm giving you straight truth. And sometimes people don't like to hear truth. So I'll just let you know that this is the truth. This is the straight truth, whether you like it or not. And if you want to look at my track record as being the president and executive director of this organization and the things that I've said and whether they follow that truth, just go back and look at all of the videos. They're all published. They're all on YouTube. You can go look at all of them. But year after year after year after year, since 2019, the fall of 2019, I have been calling the number, the forecast, the escapement goal, the harvest rates, and everything really close within a T of 5 to 10% every single year. And again, I did it this year again. So I just want you to know that my methodology is not the same as the federal and state government, but it has got a lot more factors involved, such as talking to hundreds of people, such as looking at the environmental conditions, such as looking at the water flows, temperatures 3 years prior, and whether those cohorts of fish actually spawned, survived, and did those things. But I'll tell you, a lot of people didn't like what I had to say in 23 of closing the fishery. It was the first time, the hardest decision I ever had to make, sitting on the Salmon Advisory Subpanel and recommending a closure. And that was very tough for me. It was also very tough for me in 2024 doing it again. And I made those recommendations, and I was right by making those recommendations. I was following science, and I was following our institutional knowledge, which is sometimes looked upon as not being the most scientific, but I'll tell you, it's following the scientific track 100% on board. So Steve Ravenscraft, it keeps telling me you're watching like 500 times, so glad you're with us. Anyhow, I'll let everybody know that the 2025 season, when we went out and fished in the ocean for those couple of days, as I said, it said that we caught 21,800 fish. So total, statewide, 2 days, right? It was the one weekend in June, 21,800 fish were caught in 2 days statewide. Like I said, though, if you go back and you look at the model and you only input 1 day into June statewide, it's going to say you're only going to catch 2,000 fish, right around, give or take. But the reason it says that is because the model is not a model that can understand short openers. It can't understand effort shift. It doesn't understand that if you only open up 1 day, it shows you the same amount of fish harvested in those 1 day as if you opened all 30 days, right? So just for easy math, these are incorrect numbers, what I'm about to say, but I'm just giving you an example, okay? An example. You open up 1 day in the model statewide, it says you're going to kill 2,000 Sacramento Chinook, right? Statewide, right? Just the Sacramento Chinook, about 2,000, give or take. You open up all 30 days, 30 times 2, 60,000 Chinook, right? In June. Then if you go into July, July might be a hotter month. It might say statewide you open up, it's 3,000 Chinook out of the Sacramento for 1 day in July. In August, it might be 4,000 Chinook, right? And you might say, well, why is it more Chinook in August than it is in June? And it counts against us. Well, that's because the fish are swimming in a migratory route out in the ocean. And by the time it's August, they're getting real close to San Francisco and they're on their way in. And that's what targets the fleet and the six packs and the small skiffs that are allowed to access that fishery. That's why it cost us more to fish in certain months over other months. So June is a little bit cheaper. When I say cheaper in the model, it cost us less fish than it does in July and in August, right? Now, remember, we used to fish starting in February, but those days are gone because of the spring, because of the winter run. February and March fisheries were lost years ago because of the winter run listing. Now you have the spring run listing, which still was giving us some access in the April and May timelines, but we lost that since 2023 as well. And we're hoping that we get some of that back, but it's not looking good. We'll see what the NOAA Fisheries makes the recommendation to the Salmon Advisory Subpanel and to the Council of what they recommend for a spring fishery in the ocean in April and May, but it looks highly unlikely. If anything, maybe the end of May fishery, May 16th after, that's kind of when the winter run protections end of the 24-inch rule. You have to have 24-inch rule on Sacramento Chinook in the April until May 15th timeline. So maybe after May 16th, I could see maybe a late May fishery happening possibly this year, but that would be even cheaper than June. So getting back to that, you have May, June, July, possible August, right? The season ends, and then you have a credit card fishery that opens up September and October for rec and commercial. Now, if you fish September 1st later in that year, that's called a credit card fishery or fall fishery. That means that whatever you catch in those dates, it counts against you the next year. So that September fishery that was opened up for 4 days where there was, a few thousand fish killed, those fish are now going to count against the recreational fleet this year. So it's basically robbing Peter to pay Paul kind of theory, or taking it now rather than later. So anytime you see a proposal in the three alternatives, which are going to come out again this March every year, and you see September, October, and November dates, okay, when you see those, that's when you're going to realize, hey, if we take those dates, it's going to count against us next year. And so that can hurt you if you don't know what you're doing and forecasting long term. And the reality is that most of the anglers have no idea what's going to happen this year, let alone the following year. So I just want to bring that up because I see people just going, yeah, give us all the time we can get. Yeah, take it now. Take. But I want you to be cautious because that attitude of take put us in a 3-year closure. So that's part of it, right? Now, water, spawning, survival, adults, thiamine, hatchery production, all of those are all factors. So it's not just the harvest side, but I want you to understand that harvest is a big factor in this. And I know we all want to harvest. I know we all want to catch fish. Every single one of us wants to catch fish. But the thing is that we have to realize that when we fish in September, October, November on the recreational side or commercial, September, October, you are basically taking the fish away from yourself the following year. And so that's called a credit card fishery. It's always been like that, but nobody understands it. So I just wanted to bring that up again. So back to 2025. Sorry, this is getting a little long, but I want to make sure that I'm being very detailed so that you all understand the whole process. So those 2 days that we took in June count against this last year's numbers. So they said there was 165,000 fish out in the Sacramento system. There was going to be a minimum quota out there to try to harvest around a certain number of fish, right? And then there was going to be a quota for the commercial and a quota for the inland fleet, which all was supposed to happen. So those 2 days that we took in June, the 21,000 fish basically that got caught, out of all of those fish, 50% roughly, these are rough numbers, don't quote me, just a rough guess, okay? Around 50% of those fish were from the Sacramento system, Sac, Feather, American, Yuba, okay? Those 4 rivers, right? Now, and all the tributaries that belong from Rio Vista up. The other 50% of those fish in June that were caught were from the Klamath, Oregon, coastal streams, spring run, winter run, and they were also from the Mokelumne hatchery, which is the San Joaquin system, okay? So that's called contribution rates, okay? So you look at the contribution rate of the amount of fish of that area that were contributing to that. So out of those 21,000 fish, around 10,000 were from the Sacramento, and that's what we need to worry about for this talk right now. So you have 165,000 fish out there in the ocean in the SI preseason index, okay? Minus 10,000 fish leaves you at about 155,000 fish that should be swimming into the rivers through the Golden Gate. From there, then you had 3,000 rough, give or take, harvest of inland harvest. I think those numbers were a little inflated. They said around, under 5,000 with all the jacks, but they're saying that we caught it in the 4,000 range with jacks inland at a one fish, less than a 60-day season in the Feather and the American only. I don't believe that many fish were harvested, but that's the way the model reads. So the only way we're going to get those numbers more accurate inland is people accurately turning in their creel and participating in the creel numbers and guides filling out their logs. Guides, I can't tell you again, if you don't fill out your logs and there's another closure, you're not going to get any money. And that's a big problem that happened over this last couple of years. And guides and charters were losing tens of thousands of dollars, but if you don't turn in your logs, there's no record of it. So make sure your logs were turned in. Little sidebar there. So we have the 165,000 preseason minus 10,000. Now you're at 155 minus around 3,000 adults. Now you're about 152,000 adults that were supposed to escape the Sacramento, Feather, Yuba, American rivers. Those 4 rivers only, 152,000, roughly, give or take. Where did that end up? Higher, okay? Great news, right? Because the last 15 years, 75% of the time, it's lower than 122,000. 122 to 180,000 is where the conservation objective sits, even though it's being fully reworked right now for the future. The future states, the science shows that we should have, since 2011, been sending home 290,000. That's what the science shows at a minimum. And now it's going to show, with including hatcheries, that we should have been sending home up to 400,000 fish a year. 290 to 400,000. That's the newest science. If you don't believe me, just go read it all. It's under the pcouncil.org. Go to the Sacramento Work Group reports, and you can see what they've been doing for 3 years, researching all of this. All of the studies are showing those numbers to be accurate according to science. Now, the negative is that if they jump from 122,000 to 180,000, which is the goal right now, okay, and we don't even make 122,000 75% of the time. That's why we've had such terrible inland fisheries. There's only a couple of ways to get that accuracy better every year, and like we did this year, very accurate. And the only 2 ways to do that are, number 1, make sure that the modeling is more accurate. And that's been way off. like 30 to 40% every year. We were overestimating the amount of fish out in the ocean, and that allows us to go overperform the model, because if we go out there and we harvest a certain amount and then we're getting only this much back, obviously the model is overestimating how many fish are out in the ocean. Then we go harvest those numbers, and that could allow us to overperform the model. Some might say the word overharvest. I'll say the word overperform the model, because we were only doing the job that we were told to do through the council process. So none of the fishermen did anything wrong. They did what they were told they could go do. However, we're noticing that over performance was occurring mainly because of the overestimation of fish that are out in the ocean. We could get into why that's all happening. It's because it's predicted on jack rates, and they don't estimate according to habitat conditions. And they also have a huge influx of Mokelumne fish coming into our system, Sacramento Feather and the American River. And those Mokelumne fish that are coming in to the Sacramento system are basically giving us a false sense of how many fish will be there the next year. If a bunch of 2-year-old Mokelumne fish come into the river that this year, like they did in 2025, now you're going to overestimate how many fish are out there for 2026. And if we go harvest a bunch out there and those Mokelumne fish really get whacked in the ocean, those Mokelumne fish don't stray when they're age 3 and they count as adults in the Sacramento system. Hopefully you're understanding that train of thought. But that's the reality that we're in. So that's why we've been overestimating. So getting back to 2025, I told you we had 165,000 estimate. We had 10,000 roughly harvested out there, 11,000 harvested out there, and a 3,000 inland. So now where are you at? Well, you're at about 151, 152 is what we were hoping would escape. And I'm happy to report that we're going to see about a 10% higher than what we thought. So we're going to probably finish in that 160s, maybe 170 at a low, but 160s to 170 is where we're going to probably finish on adult escapement. So that's going to be accurate. That's the first time this model's been accurate to a T like this in almost 10 years. So that's really, really exciting news. I think the last time that happened was 2018 or 2019. But besides that, none of the other years were as accurate as this year was. So I'm really happy to report back to you that those numbers are really, really accurate. How does that number now affect 2026, right? So the way that you do that is they take the escapement number and then they look at the preseason number, they minus the harvest out, and now you have a true SI, right? So I just told you it was about 10% higher. So even though they said preseason the SI was around 165, it's going to really come out that the 2025 SI was probably around 180, 185, probably was the true Sacramento Index. Post-season, after fishing, it's corrected, right? So now there'll be a small autocorrelation in the model that will basically take the jack number and then autocorrelate up a little bit because of the line of deviation is basically now saying there was a little bit higher, and every year lately we've been lower, so it's been coming down to get more accurate. So now you actually are going to see a much more accurate model, I hope. Now, if the autocorrelation goes up really high, then we could overperform again if the model guesstimates too many fish. But if the autocorrelation stays pretty conservative, I think we're going to find ourselves in a really good situation that's going to allow opportunity around the entire state, opportunity inland, and going to give us a preseason abundance. So the numbers are not finalized, but my guess is that there's well north of 50,000 jacks that came back to the Sacramento system this year. So that's going to be a total river run size, jacks, adults, okay, both, and harvest. So it was around 230,000 fish roughly that came back to the Sacramento system this year. So you minus out the 5,000 fish that got harvested with jacks, 40-something hundred. And then you look at the actual numbers of escapement, like I said, was around like that 160-ish to 170-ish, somewhere in there. And then you are going to then add that back, and you will realize that when you have that many jacks, 50 to 60,000 jacks, probably closer to 60, and you're going to see that jack number is now going to make the number for the next year. I think last year the jacks was around 19,000, I want to say. So this is 3 times how many jacks we had last year. So that's going to tell you roughly, right? Roughly speaking, if it's 3 times the amount of jacks, we had 165,000 out there, okay? Or the postseason says 180-ish, right? Multiply that by 3. What's that tell you? Well, that tells you that we could have somewhere between 450,000 to 600,000 fish. Probably 450 to 550,000 fish out there. Simple math, guys. So that's how you look at that. Now, that's just a model. So that's just the model telling you that's what the model shows you. Okay, that's how many fish that we're going to have out there. 450 to 550,000 fish. Looking at the math, looking at the jacks, looking at the escapement. And then you have to start saying, okay, do you believe that? So how do I backtrack on that? And I start looking at it. Well, I start going 3 years back and I start looking at the numbers of where those numbers were 3 years ago, how the releases were, how the spawning was, how many adults were in our rivers 3 years ago, and do I believe that number? Okay. I'll be getting more to you on that in a couple of weeks. I'm not going to tell you my answer of do I believe the model yet, because I personally need to go to the salmon information meeting. I need to go to the council. I need to listen to all the dialogue and everything first of how we got there, how much the model actually auto-correlated, and then I will be able to backtrack into each individual cohort and hatchery release, and then I'll be able to guesstimate if that number should be a little higher, closer to 600,000, or maybe a little lower, closer to that 400,000. What did I tell you all last year is my guess? I said 400,000 to 600,000 last year. A year ago, I told you 2026, 400,000 to 600,000 fish will be where we're at. Where do we fall? Right where I told you we would. So, it's great news. Okay. Great. Right, Michael Hale. Great news. We've got way more fish than we have. So that's perfect. I think it's accurate in that 400,000 to 600,000. I just don't know if it's right at 5. I don't know if it's closer to 4 realistically. I don't know where the state and federal government will end up on, or if we could actually get up closer to 600,000. But I would say 500,000 is a good safe number to kind of in our minds right now for the next 2 weeks until we get more accurate information and we get the true numbers from the federal and state government. Hopefully I'm accurate and my guesstimates are on par, but I'm doing the same thing that I've been doing for year after year after year, and I'm right every year. So I'm thinking you're all going to hear very soon that the PFMC is going to release the review of ocean fisheries through the federal government, and that's going to announce 1, the escapement, 2, how many fish came back to every hatchery in every river, and 3, how many jacks. That's all it will say. Once I have confirmation of those 3 numbers through the review of ocean fisheries, which should come out next Friday on the 20th, then from there I will be able to do another live video and confirm my estimates. And then on the 25th, CDFW will be doing the salmon information meeting in Sacramento at 1 o'clock. Downtown Sacramento, and you will be able to read all of that information. So I think it's going to be all accurate. So, where did we end up out of those 160 to 170,000 fish? Roughly around 80,000, I believe, are up in the Sacramento for adults. That's a lot better than the 10 to 20,000 the last couple of years. So yes, 3, 4, 5x of the last 3 years. Fish going up into the Sacramento main stem. Huge, everybody, huge. That should hopefully prevent the listing. We need to be more conservative again this year, also on the Sacramento, because if we don't, and we do overperform in the ocean and we get a terrible return, we could be wiping out another cohort of the Sacramento River. Last year's cohort was one of the worst that has happened in many years because of 2022, all of the poor water and the drought. They didn't give any water and they killed all of our natural spawning fish in the fall of 2022. So hopefully we're going to see conservative estimates of fish coming home this year in the Sacramento main stem. Protect the year 2, protect the year 3 run, 26 fall, 27 fall, and that should get us out of the 3-year cycle. And by 28, we could be a little more liberal, in my opinion, and try to harvest more out in the ocean without having a cohort collapse like we had happen in 23 and 24. So, and 22, for that matter. So we had cohort collapses everywhere. So hopefully everyone understands that. But out of this year, out of the 160 to 170 that my guesstimate, my math is showing me, about 80,000 adults in the Sacramento. The Feather had around 36,000 adults, and the Yuba had around 8,000 total fish. I think it was around a 25-30% jack rate there, so around 6,500 adults, and roughly around 16 to 2,000 jacks up in there. And then the American River had the largest jack rate, up 45 to 50%, and even higher in the hatchery, but that's a lot. And there was a lot of fish that returned to the American River. It was the highest return to the American River in over, I want to say almost 20 years. I think it was 2012. So maybe not 20 years, 15 years. But it was the largest return on the American River this year in the last 15 years. So a lot of people are going to say, man, that's awesome news. There's a caveat to this. Why did we have the largest return to the American River, the largest return to the American River in 15 years when we had poor water conditions in the American River, right? We had hot water all of August, September, October. We had a lot of pre-spawn mortality. Fish died before they made it to the hatchery or they spawned because Bureau of Reclamation had not released enough cold water, okay? But what am I looking for? I'm going to give somebody a free hat right now. If you can type it in the chat right now, first person. Why do we have about 60,000 fish in the American River this year? Total fish, jacks, adults. Why do we have that many? Anybody know? There's one thing I'm looking for is someone to comment. It's a free hat. Any hat that you want from us if you put it in the chat. Why are there so many fish in the American River this year compared to the last 15 years? There's one thing that I'm looking for, and we'll see if somebody can pick up on it. Yes! Pete! There it is! Oh, Chris Schurz, you were right behind Pete Portlock. Make sure you message the page, Pete, and give me your address, and I will send you a hat. Choose which one you want online, and we will get you. Jeremiah Brown, yes. Ed Davis, right. You guys are paying attention. I love it. Education is working. Sea lions, I like it, Chad. No, it's the stray rate. So they didn't release any water down the Mokelumne River this year. Nothing. Our 3 groups had to fight East Bay Mud to release 250 acre feet, and they barely got enough fish back to the Mokelumne hatchery to get their eggs this year. There was no water coming down the Mokelumne. So when there's no water down the Mokelumne, all of those fish go into the American River. It's natural because the Delta Cross Channel in Walnut Grove is open, and so those fish go up the side gate and they shoot up into the American River. And that's why. So a lot of those jacks that you're seeing, those are Mokelumne jacks. And here we are. They're in the American River, and now we're going to go to the council, and they're going to count those Mokelumne jacks. There's thousands of them, tens of thousands of them, and they're going to count those Mokelumne jacks as American jacks, and they're going to give us this number between 400,000 and 600,000, right? Keep in mind, I'm warning everyone that this could be the reason that if I come to you in 1 year from right now and say, next guys, we screwed up, we overperformed out in the ocean, we overperformed in the river, we didn't get enough fish back in the river in 26. That could be because the Mokelumne jacks strayed so much into the American River this year to inflate that number of 60,000 plus fish is my estimate. I'm guessing on those numbers, just looking at a whole of over the whole river system of just doing some deductive reasoning. The feather fish are the only fish that we know 100%. of accuracy on the number, and that's because there's a counter in the weir. So